5 habits that separate the top 1% from everyone else. In the modern world, inequality is no longer just about financial capital. It is about cognitive capital, structural routine, and behavioral mechanics. 99% of the population lives in a reactive loops. They wake up to an alarm, instantly check their smartphones, absorb cortisol-inducing notifications, and let the external world dictate their emotional state for the rest of the day. They wonder why, despite working hard, they remain financially stuck. The top 1% operate on an entirely different operating system. They do not have more hours in the day, nor do they possess superhuman intelligence. What they possess is a rigorous adherence to a set of non-negotiable habits that protect their energy, maximize their leverage, and compound their wealth. Today, we are dismantling the 5 exact habits that separate the elite performers from the crowd. If you incorporate even 2 of these into your daily routine this month, your life will look unrecognizable in 12 months. Let's begin. Habit 1. Rigorous cognitive insulation. The first habit of the top 1% is what psychologists call cognitive insulation. In an information-saturated economy, the ability to control what enters your mind is a superpower. The average person consumes over 34 gigabytes of information daily. This constant influx of noise, social media drama, sensationalized news, and fragmented opinions creates mental clutter. It destroys your ability to engage in deep, strategic thinking. Think of your mind as a high-performance engine. If you put low-quality fuel into a Ferrari, it will break down. Yet, people expect their brains to generate million-dollar ideas while feeding them cheap dopamine loops. The elite insulate their minds. For the first 2 hours of the day, they practice absolute informational silence. No inputs, no emails, no social media. Consider the historical example of modern tech founders and classic oil magnates. They did not spend their mornings reacting to the competition. They spent their mornings in isolation, planning their next structural moves. When you shield your brain from immediate digital distraction, you allow your subconscious to process complex problems and deliver high-value insights. If you want to achieve elite output, you must fiercely guard the gates of your perception. Habit 2. Revenue-first energy allocation. The second habit changes how you view your daily calendar. Amateurs manage time, professionals manage energy. You can have an open 8-hour window, but if your cognitive battery is at 5%, your execution will be completely useless. The top 1% map out their daily execution based on their biological peak hours. Most humans have a window of high cognitive capacity that lasts roughly 4 hours after waking up. During this period, your brain's prefrontal cortex is operating at peak efficiency. Your focus is sharpest, and your capacity to solve complex problems is at its absolute highest. The average worker wastes this golden window on low-leverage administrative tasks. They answer emails, attend low-priority meetings, or organize their desks. By the time they sit down to do the real, needle-moving work, their mental energy is drained. The elite invert this dynamic. They apply their highest energy to their highest revenue-generating or highest leverage tasks first. If they are building a software system, writing a high-stakes copy, or negotiating a critical partnership, that happens during their peak energy block. Administrative tasks are pushed to the late afternoon when energy naturally drops. Stop asking what time you will do something, and start asking with what level of energy you will execute it. Habit 3. The strategic asymmetry of no. Habit number 3 is the absolute mastery of refusal. Billionaire investor Warren Buffett once famously noted, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." When you are starting out, saying yes is necessary. It opens doors, creates opportunities, and builds a baseline network. But once you establish your direction, saying yes becomes an extreme liability. Every time you say yes to a coffee meeting that could have been an email, a low-profile project, or a social gathering you don't care about, you are saying a passive no to your primary long-term goals. The top 1% understand that time is a non-renewable resource. They do not feel guilty for declining opportunities. They evaluate every single request through a strict filter. Does this directly align with my primary objective for this quarter? If the answer is not an absolute, enthusiastic yes, it is an immediate, polite no. This strategic asymmetry allows them to maintain a level of hyperfocus that competitors simply cannot match. You do not need more opportunities. You need the discipline to ruthlessly eliminate distractions. Habit 4. Asset-driven reinvestment labors. The fourth habit separates financial amateurs from wealth architects. The consumer economy is built to trap you in a cycle of immediate gratification. When the average person earns more income, their lifestyle instantly inflates. They buy a newer car, rent a larger apartment, or purchase luxury items to signal status to a society that doesn't care. The top 1% treat money not as a tool for immediate consumption, but as digital soldiers designed to capture more market share. They live beneath their means, not out of scarcity, but out of a desire for extreme leverage. When an elite performer generates surplus capital, their first instinct is to reinvest it into assets that compound automatically. This could be scaling their current business operations, acquiring digital infrastructure, investing in high-yield financial funds, or upgrading their own skill sets through premium education. They understand that $100 spent on an asset today can buy them hundreds of hours of total freedom in the future. They prioritize freedom over status symbols, and that is why they eventually own the game. Habit 5. Radical post-mortem reflection. The final habit is the practice of radical post-mortem reflection. Most people moving through life making the exact same mistakes week after week, year after year. They fail a project, feel bad about it, and then jump straight into the next venture without analyzing why the failure occurred. The top 1% act like scientific researchers of their own behavior. At the end of every week, they sit down with a blank ledger and perform a postmortem analysis. They ask themselves hard, metric-driven questions. Where did my time leak this week? Which decisions were driven by emotion rather than data? What bottleneck stopped my production line? By analyzing their metrics, they can make micro-adjustments to their systems. A 1% improvement in your decision-making framework every single week compounds into a massive competitive gap over a 5-year horizon. They don't just hope for a better next week. They architect it based on historical performance data. True transformation does not happen through emotional inspiration. It happens through systematic execution. The gap between where you are today and where the top 1% stand is simply a gap in architecture. If you are ready to stop reacting to life and start commanding your flow, select one habit from this list today and commit to it for 30 days. Your future self is waiting for you to make the shift. If you found value in this deep dive, subscribe to Shift Flows and drop a comment below on which habit you are implementing first. Stay focused, stay disciplined.